All right. Okay. So we're going to take a quick deep dive. All right. And we're going to read some things here. We're going to use a chat GPT here about the seedless fruits, especially things like a navel orange. There's something so wrong about this. This is so fucking wrong. Okay. It just does not resonate with me at all. Okay, navel, and then you're piercing through it. Is it no, 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 no. This is not good. This does not represent something good, at least not in my eyes. But at the same time, there's a light and a dark aspect here. And we're going to go into it. And the dark and the light aspect has to deal with your ability to be an alchemist, to transmute certain things. Okay. You could eat this, right? And you can transmute and still go back to seeds. But at the same time, you're feeding something that typically, you know, is is doesn't continue the cycle of life, you could say. All right, because seedless things don't duplicate. They don't duplicate unless some human intervention comes in. All right, so we understand that pollination is what can allow for mutations to happen, and when these mutations happen, all right, things can be crossed, genes, genetics. All right, and with those crossings of genes and genetics and different pollens and seeds, etc., and DNA information, you can get new fruit with seeds. Okay, that's how nature does it. So even when nature makes a mutation, typically a mutation from nature would include new seeds. Okay, so we're going to read a little here. All right, and typically things like this orange, all right, with its weird name, things like that is done through a process called grafting, basically a form of cloning. All right. Now we're going to go ahead, and one of the things that interested me was what was happening during the 1800s when this thing was discovered. What was happening globally, environmentally, because a lot of things that happen then tend to affect, how certain things evolve or how certain things change and go through certain processes. So first, we'll look at what is grafting. Okay, because we know that these kinds of oranges aren't regular. Okay, grafting is a natural ish horticulture technique where a branch called a scion from one plant is attached to the rootstock of another. It's like a transplant that creates a hybrid plant, each part bringing its strength to the relationship. Okay, now I'm going to go into that's you can look up grafting. Now, here's the thing about grafting. I was wondering, well, if grafting is a human-made process, what else do they use to keep growing something like this that doesn't have a seed? All right. Well, typically there are some plant hormones included, like auxins, whether natural or synthetic. Now, some natural auxins make. I'll give you an example of natural auxins given here. Now, ChatGPT does this thing where it breaks it all down into other parts, but I just going to have a brief deep dive here, okay? But some natural auxins, like willow water, that's one natural auxin. Willow tea, you soak young willow branches, and it contains natural auxins. Aloe vera gel, mild growth promoter and antibacterial. Honey, used for its antifungal properties when grafting. Okay, so some people may use that for grafting. Okay, now here's the thing, spiritually, on a spiritual level, the reason why these oranges and these seedless things, we don't really try to go for them, and we don't really have to do so much of alchemical dark or light shadow work anymore, is because at the end of the day, even when you do that shadow work, you still have to return to the natural anyways. All right, you'll still find that the natural processes of nature are always going to be the top anyways, because nature knows how to make mutations of their fruits, of its plants, of its food, and still make either something new or even bigger, but still containing seeds. If we don't have a seed, the reason the seed is so natural and so much better and much more intelligent than what a human tries to do, all right? Not to say that the human doesn't bring value, but what the human does, all right, the extra process of grafting, that's unnecessary, all right? Because I say all right. I say all right a lot because everything is all right in a way. Everything's okay, all right. But at the same time, doesn't mean you can't be honest and real about things that hello, this doesn't make sense. This looks weird. This doesn't make sense. No, this is incomplete. I say this is incomplete. Okay. So the thing about nature when it does its own thing is that it is naturally self-sufficient. Okay. If a seed falls and becomes mutated into something else, well, most likely that something else is going to have a seed. So it could keep growing. So we don't have to do much. We can sit back on our asses, have fun, get creative, okay, and let nature do its abundant thing. Okay, this is also why it's important to understand why certain things and that humans do, like spraying stuff in the air, should stop. Okay, we need to be careful. All right, and actually, better said, we need to be responsible, and we need to hold these companies accountable, and they are being held accountable because there are bans already happening for there are already bans going on for these planes that are spraying stuff in the air. All right. So there's more details about other auxins. Okay. Now, generally, auxins are not harmful, but over time, small amounts can add up to stuff. We know this. Even in quantum mechanics, small movements can add to larger movements. Just like in a beetle's wings, you have small eddy currents. Okay, and those small currents are produced from small molecular, even nano and atomic scale motions that build up on each other. It literally is all energy, frequencies, and vibrations expressing itself. All right, now let's go a little history about the original navel orange tree. This was discovered in the early 1800s in Bahia, Brazil. It was a mutant seedless orange growing on a regular sweet orange tree. What did the botanist realize? It was seedless. Couldn't be grown from seed. Had a unique twin fruit bump like a belly button. Hence the name navel orange. It's almost as if twin fruit bump, almost as if this happened. Yeah. Let me look up real quick here. What's a twin fruit bump look like? Yeah, two fruits are either fused or grow close together, forming a bump or bulge that gives the appearance of being joined at the hip. I knew it. A twin fruit bump. It's in the name itself. Now, let's take this example of a twin fruit bump and let's go into the flower of life or the seed of life. We know if this is a cell, this represents a cell. It could be a circle, it could be flat, one dimensional, two dimensional, three dimensional. It's all dimensions, okay? Anyways, this is how spirit starts right here, okay? And then it duplicates itself. Somewhere along the process, it stopped due to either environmental stress or whatever was going on. And in this case, sometimes you can say maybe someone was trying to spray some shit in the air. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Nothing's new under the sun, right? But that's essentially what happened. Okay. So eventually, essentially, what happened was the cell didn't split. Now, here's the spiritual side. They didn't completely split. Now, here's the spiritual side about that. There is something good to that because it kind of equates or it kind of points to a oneness. All right. It kind of points to this. Let me put it on ChatGPT. This kind of because this is how I can train my ChatGPT as well. I put its input so it I put my insights in so it starts to put things on the way that I like to put things together. Very good organization tool. Okay, this kind of points to the flower of life and how the oneness and the duality duplication aspect of spirit, or in this case, the orange, didn't completely split off. Let's see what it says there. Yeah, there you go. Nice. It did it. It did it. Okay. So, anyways, so yeah. All right. So, in essence, okay, while it may not be good because life is supposed to duplicate, there is a light side to it. But just knowing that is enough. So, if you eat that, yeah, in a way, you have that kind of connection to that process, okay, of returning to oneness. All right. Getting away from duality. All right. But you also have the duality. You have the duplication and then you have the returning to the oneness. Okay, all represented in this orange, right? Isn't that amazing? I hate the name navel orange, dude. It's such a fucking weird name. So, anyways, let's go back to now what was happening environmentally in Brazil at that time. Okay. All right. We're going to zoom in here now. We had colonial tension, 1800 to 1830. Colonial tension plus empire shift. Brazil was under Portuguese rule, but big changes were happening. In 1808, the Portuguese royal family fled Napoleon's invasion of Portugal and moved to Brazil, turning it into the seat of the empire. By 1822, Brazil declared independence and became an empire under Emperor Dom Pedro I. See why I don't go with my original name sometimes? Or not original name, the name, my government name, because that's the government name. Pedro. And some of you will be like, "Oh, this is a sign," but I don't go by Pedro anymore. If someone says Pedro, I just don't answer anymore. It doesn't. That's an old me. That doesn't exist for me anymore. Now that's just a business. Now it's just business I manage. Okay, it's a foundation I manage, and even that name is probably going to change because too much. All right, time to shift. All right, time to shift it a little. Get on a different spectrum. Anyways, this potential shakeup likely shifted agricultural trade and land use, okay, et cetera, et cetera. Agriculture and environment was affected, sunspot cycles, climate mutation conditions, expansions of citrus cultivation. Putting it all together, global climate weirdness, as it says, empire upheaval in Brazil, expanding citrus farms, tropical conditions that promote mutation minus prone stress plus fast growth cycles. Okay, now let's talk about going deeper. And of course, I let it do its thing because I love being able to get this information and put it all in one nice little source for reading and for reinforcement of what I'm learning. But let's go back into why pollination is so important. Okay, pollination. Now we already found the significance of this. All right. So yeah, you want to be balanced in your comprehension of what's going on. Okay, because some people are using artificial processes, some people are using artificial chemical processes, some people are using techniques that don't include artificial lab made synthetics or chemicals and just a process. Okay, nonetheless, I don't like it's such a fucking weird name, navel orange. Mm. I say stick to the regular orange because at the end of the day, when you have a regular orange and it has a seed, that seed represents the internal the it represents where it all starts because that seed is also connected to the nothing and the something. That seed, when it falls to the ground, could potentially become something else, which nature has done plenty of times. Okay, so we're gonna go into now understanding. We're gonna re comprehend over here what pollination is and the great mix-up. Every time a flower is pollinated by bees, wind or animals, genetic material from one plant, the pollen combines with egg cells in another plant's flower. This is how sexual reproduction in plants happens. Okay, now cross pollen, and since oranges with or any fruit with seeds is a result of reproduction, all right, but this is also a result from an original production. Okay, then what we have here is just God, I hate the look of this thing. It makes me feel so queasy, bro. I don't like it. This is terrible, man. Nature, no, no. If you did this, nature, I get it. But listen, go back. Go back. It's like nature saying, do we split? Do we not? That's a pretty deep, profound thing that's nature showing us if you really think about it. So, anyways, cross pollination, nature's genetic remix. If a bee carries pollen from one apple tree to another, the resulting seed inside the apple has unique genetics, potentially different from both parents. Okay, this is what can lead to seed growth mutation, natural hybridization, or random mutation during cell division. Hello, during cell division. Whoop, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. Hmm? So it went from the oneness, and it grew and it split. The cell, the seed, spirit was one, and then it became, we can say it like that, spirit was one, and then it became two, but then it was like, wait, if we're the same, we're gonna stop right here. Same when you're in your mother's womb. You are one, and then you are created, and you split. Imagine being born like that, dude. No, no, that'd be. Oh my God. No, 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 no. Thank goodness for the natural uh, process of the natural complete process of one seed of a tree or one fruit of a tree growing into something else. It just doesn't feel good. It feels incomplete almost incomplete. Whereas other people who are probably joined together are be like, nah, we feel just as complete as anybody. I'm like, okay, cool, good, that's fine. All right, but my body right now is like, no. I like the idea of being able to just stay with one, and then from my oneness comes another. And it's a oneness of its own, but it's still interconnected. Not through this kind of physical representation. Just looking at that and doing that makes me feel bad. Oh my God. Anyways, Lord have mercy. That is right now my sacral chakra. Oh, my solar plexus chakra. It feels so weird. Oh Lord. Anyways, over time, natural selection kicks in, ladies and gentlemen. All right, and a new natural fruit can be born. All right. Who knows? Maybe this was nature trying to do something of its own. Maybe what it needed to do was be dropped. Okay? And if that's the case, we will drop it and let it do its thing to see what new thing it'll become. All right. It's rare for nature to make a seedless fruit. Okay? It won't reproduce unless, of course, from its ashes, you could say something else is born. Maybe a new fungus, maybe a different mushroom, a mushroom that's spiritually intertwined very strongly when ingested to the oneness of everything rather than duality and oneness. This one experiences total oneness and very slight dualities. Hmm. What an interesting mushroom that would be. That'd be a different magical mushroom. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, there's a little deep dive on the this orange. Okay, I'm going to I'm going to I'm going to turn this thing away. Okay, I'm going to look at that part right there. Yeah, 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 that part right there. That looks like a sun. There we go. Oh, why? Such a sensitive thing. Anyways, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys like that. And that's all for now. Peace. Go nature. Nature always wins.